Hello and welcome to the Mind of Sunnybelle. I am Wanda, aka Sunnybelle. I would like to say hello and welcome to all of my subscribers. Thank you again for continuing to support my channel, and I hope you find this video just as interesting as the last ones. And don't worry, I know you're saying, I'm new to the channel, I'm not a subscriber. Well, guess what? You can become one so easily, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Just hit that subscribe button. Remember to hit like, share the video, and you will know when I post a new video. And of course, your comments are always welcome. So what are we going to do today? Well, today I have a really quick and a very delicious biscuit recipe. It's a really simple biscuit recipe that I think anyone can make, and you just need to have the ingredients and the tools. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is tell you to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. It takes a little while to get there, but you can be getting the ingredients together while your oven's heating up. So first, we're going to start with our ingredients and tools. So we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. This is 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. This is 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. This is just regular table salt. Then, of course, lemon zest. 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. Again, I use my handy dandy microplane zester to get my zest. And usually when I get any kind of citrus, whether it's orange, lemon, limes, I zest it and I put it in my freezer, in a freezer bag, and put it in my freezer, or I vacuum seal it and put it in the freezer. So this actually wasn't fresh today. It was some I had left over, but you're gonna need a lemon anyway because we'll need some later. But in case you have some in the freezer, just pop it out just like I did. And then the cream. The cream is actually in 2 separate portions, and I'll explain. We need 1.5 cups of cold cream to start. It's going to actually go in the mixture, but we need 1 tablespoon of really cold cream to be waiting. We don't need that right now. So I have it in the fridge. I'm not going to take it out until right before I need it, so it can stay really cold, and you'll need that for later in the recipe. Then I have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of demerara sugar. Did I say that right? Demerara sugar, but sometimes it can be expensive or hard to find. So I actually just use raw sugar, and I find it works just fine. They're both considered raw sugars because they aren't as processed as like the granulated sugar that we know of, or white sugar that we usually have. So that is my 1 substitution for this recipe. But again, you can use demerara. That is so hard for me to say. Demerara sugar, but I just use raw sugar. It has a slightly brownish tint. As you can see, it's not as processed as white sugar, but it works fine for me. For tools, of course, you're going to need a mixing bowl. Where are we going to put it? And you can see all my ingredients are on my lovely baking mat. You don't have to have this. You can roll this out on your counter, but I love using my baking mat because after I mix everything up, I could just fold it up, put it in my sink, and just wash it. It contains the mess, and it's easy to work on. You're going to need a whisk. You're going to need a biscuit cutter, about 2 inches, and oopsie, can't hold it. Then I have my spatulas for mixing and for scraping out ingredients. You're going to need a brush. And I use this to kind of help me measure because we want a certain thickness of our biscuit, but it's not a necessity. I just use it to kind of help me eyeball, if my biscuit dough is thick enough. So those are all our ingredients. So now it's time to start mixing our dough. So we start with our flour. I'm just going to pour that in. Just going to tap the sides. A little bit staying inside there. Then we add our granulated sugar, the baking powder. And I'm going to use my little spatula here just to get just a little bit on the rim of my bowl here. And then we add the salt. And then we take our whisk and we thoroughly combine. It's important that you thoroughly combine all the ingredients at this time. You don't want big pockets of salt here, big pockets of sugar there. You want it thoroughly combined and all the ingredients spread out. Now that all of our dry ingredients are in, we take our lemon zest and it goes into the flour mixture. I'm just scraping it all out with my smaller spatula. And this is an important step. I'm using a glove just because I don't want it all over my hands, but if you want to get in there with your hands, go for it. But you are now kind of rubbing the zest into the flour mixture. This step is important because it is infusing the flour mixture with the lemon oils. So the oil that what we think of as lemon, that scent we think of, comes from the peels. That's the oil in the lemon peel. So we're kind of infusing the flour mixture with some of that lemon taste, smell. It's going to permeate the entire biscuit here. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm just spreading it out and I'm literally just rubbing it in my fingers. So I'll take a few moments to do that. Just rubbing it together. It's a very simple step. As I said, you could do it without a glove on. I just did it because I didn't want my hands to have flour all over them. So I'm just going through looking for large chunks of zest and kind of breaking them up. So you can see there's some right there. I'm just breaking them up. And again, you want it spread throughout. You don't want a big chunk of lemon zest in one and the others don't get any. Now that I have kind of pressed all of the zest inside the flour mixture, we can add the wet. So this is the 1.5 cups of heavy cream. It was very cold. I didn't leave it out for a long time. I actually just took it out of the refrigerator when I started mixing. So I'm just using my spatula to get all of that cream out of the cup. And we add in our lemon juice. And now I'll take my larger spatula and I will start mixing that together. And when you mix the dough, you might notice it starts to look, I guess the word is shaggy, like a shaggy dog, because we have the lemon zest in there and it kind of shows through the mixture. But just keep stirring until all the liquid is thoroughly incorporated into the flour mixture. Now that I have thoroughly mixed all the ingredients together, it's time to put it out on a well-floured surface. Again, I'm using my baking mat. I'm sure you've seen this mat in many of my videos because I love to use it, like my pizza video and other things. But yes, I love using this mat. So I'm now just going to empty it out onto the surface. I'm trying to get everything out of there. No dough left behind. And because I don't want it to stick to me, my hands are already washed. I'm kind of flouring them and I'm pushing it off there. The flour helps. So I think I've gotten all the dough that I can get out of there. So again, my surface is well floured, but I'm gonna add a little more because I kind of dip my hands in there so I can work with this dough. So well floured. So now I'm just kind of bringing the dough together on my baking mat, using the flour to keep it from sticking. As you can see, I already have a nice dough ball, so it didn't take long for it to come together. So then it's time, oops, I got flour everywhere. Now it's time for me to kind of start making my biscuits. So with a biscuit, I actually kind of get almost like a rectangle, almost like a loaf size because it's supposed to be about 3/4 inch. Let me get a little more flour here. 3/4 inch thick. And this recipe can make about 8 biscuits, but with the leftover dough, you can re-roll it and make some. They might not be as pretty or nice as the original biscuits, but they're still pretty good. So I have my cutter, so I kind of eyeball it to see how many I can get. So I can get about 6 out of that. So I might make it a little wider. And again, just kind of eyeballing how high it is. So that's a little too high, so I can actually flatten this out a little more. Trying to make it even all across. So now that I have gotten the dough to about 3/4 an inch height that I want, I have my biscuit cutter, and again, you kind of get a little bit of flour on it so it doesn't stick. It shouldn't, but you go. So you press down and you turn slightly, and the biscuit should come out like so. So I'm going to keep doing this for about 8 biscuits. And if I have some left over, I can re-roll it and get a few more biscuits. So again, just cutting out the biscuits. I have about 8 here. So I'm going to, oops, doesn't want to come out. So I'm going to take my leftovers, rub it in the flour. Make sure I get plenty of flour for my hands. And again, the more times you handle it, the more times you roll it out, the tougher it's going to be. It's what, that's what happens with doughs and such. So we don't want it to be too tough. So I wouldn't roll it out more than once, really. Re-roll it out more than once, because after that it gets kind of tough from all the working that you're doing with it. So just get a few more, maybe 3 or 4 more. Let's see what I can get. Okay, so I got about 4 more out of that. You could if you wanted to, but I'm not going to re-roll this because it starts to get tough. It starts to diminish the quality of the biscuits, and they don't always get the right thickness. So that's what we have done with the dough. Now it's time to put it on the baking sheet. So I have a baking sheet that has been lined with parchment paper. So I actually can just place my biscuits on here about 1 inch apart. So I'm just placing them. I'm getting hungry just looking at these guys. I'm gonna move that over just a bit. And spread these out again about 1 inch apart, trying to give room. So I got, what's that, about 12 biscuits? Yeah, I got about 12 biscuits with the recipe, again, because I re-rolled it after I cut out the first set of biscuits. So now I need to get the 1 tablespoon of cold heavy cream, and I'm gonna need that to top the biscuits before we put them in the oven. So let me go and get that from the fridge. So now that I have my heavy cream, it is time to finish the biscuits. So you actually just brush the top of each biscuit with that 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. So I'm just brushing each top, trying to do it evenly. If I have a little more, I might go back through and re-top them, but just doing that. And I can see the lemon zest sticking out of some of the biscuits. Oh, I really, 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 really like lemon flavor. Pretty much anything. So I'm excited about these biscuits. Excited to make them. I'm excited to eat them. So now that I have fresh cream on all of them, it's time to go over the top with the raw sugar that I had. So I'm just sprinkling it inside the cream, and that's gonna have a nice sugary crunchy top. And I'm just eyeballing it. It's no exact measurement. I'm just eyeballing it. Some may have a little more sugar than others. Maybe I'll go back add a little more. So now that I have sprinkled the sugar on top of all the biscuits, it is time to put it in the oven. Remember, we preheated the oven to 425 degrees, and it's time. It takes about 15 to 18 minutes, depending on your oven and depending on your ingredients. It's a little different every time, but it takes about 15 to 18 minutes for them to bake fully. I like to rotate them halfway because I want it to be fully cooked on all sides, and every oven has a hotter spot than others. So make sure you rotate them about halfway through, and then we get to take them out and eat them, the best part. Now the biscuits have been cooking for 15 minutes. This pan is very hot. Please don't touch it. But the biscuits do need to cool just for a few minutes because I kind of want them warm. So we just want it to cool for a few minutes, then we can serve them. So let's let them cool down, and I will get some delicious toppings for our biscuits. So now that I've allowed the biscuits to cool, you can see I've added them to my little basket, but to let you know that I'm not just giving you something I don't like. I just took a knife, sliced them through, and I'm going to try some blueberry preserves on it. You can, of course, just eat these with butter. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like a little fruit spread on mine. So you can see there's blueberry preserves. I have some lemon curd, just you want more lemon flavor. There's strawberry jam and honey. All of them are really great toppings for this. So I'm going to taste it. It is very good. Can't talk and chew at the same time. No, they are very good. My family loves them. I think whoever you make them for will love them as well. And this was just a really quick biscuit recipe. I have another biscuit recipe that I follow that's a little more work, a few more steps, but maybe I'll have to make a video about that next time. Why don't you let me know in the comments if you want to know. It's kind of like a country style biscuit recipe. So let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see, and I can make a video of that. But as always, I have food, so it's time for me and my family to eat it. It was so nice hanging out with you, doing this recipe. I hope you give it a try. And until the next time, see you later.